Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 1. I almost said hour number 2. I got ahead of myself. The opening hour of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, the opening hour of 3 hours of talking about the outdoors, the great outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in our great state of Michigan. Hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and wildlife issues and conservation issues and wild game cooking to wrap up each week's show. And it's a wonderful time of year, isn't it? I just don't think there's a better time of year than this. I mean, once we get into Rocktober, yeah, that's good. I mean, that's great. But September's not bad. Not bad at all. Why is it not bad? Well, let's just say the early goose season's open, the teal season's open, bear season is open now in Michigan. The youth hunt this weekend, I'll be talking more about that. Then small game season, and then the bow season. I mean, it's rock and roll time now, isn't it? I love this time of year. The 20th, which is next weekend, next Saturday morning, I will be at Jay's Sporting Goods in the Clare store, along with Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives, to give away the first installment check to the folks at Outdoor Driven, Andrew Comptis. The knife, the Mike Avery signature knife is selling very well. Let me just take this minute, too. I was talking to Chris. He said, Mike, will you please tell your listeners to be patient with us? And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? He said, Mike, your knife is so popular. We're making them as fast as we can. But please let people know, remind them, this is a handmade custom knife. And you can't make these things in just a few hours. It takes a while to put these things together. And then there's the shipping. In today's world of Amazon, where you go online and order something and it shows up at your door the next day, people are getting a little bit spoiled. He says, we make these as fast as we can. We ship them out as fast as we can. But we're also making all of the other knives at Rapid River, and we're making your knife as fast as we can, and it takes time. So if you ordered in early August, your knife should be coming very soon. The first group that ordered them, I mean, they got them in like a week. But since then, it's been slowing down a little bit. But the folks at Rapid River are doing the best they can. Be patient. I promise you it is worth the wait. You know what else I'm waiting for? Rain. Our food plots are not looking very good. We could really use some rain. The seed's been in the ground for weeks now, but we haven't had any good rain for weeks now. The deer are coming into those food plots, but I know if they would be lush and green and a few inches higher, we'd have more deer in there. I am not one of those people, though. I'm not one of these modern hunters, right? I don't have a hit list. I don't wait until they're mature. Am I going to shoot a small buck? Probably not. Not intentionally. Am I going to let a 140-inch 10-point walk in front of me without shooting him because he's not mature? No. I will tell you this. I think one of the things that's wrong, in my not-so-humble opinion, with deer hunting today is the fact that we have let the outdoor TV hunting shows ruin deer hunting. Again, in my opinion. Why is that? Because I think the TV hunting shows have created unrealistic expectations for the average hunter. The average Michigan hunter is not going to see the quality of deer that these folks are passing on these TV shows. But keep in mind, these TV shows are hunting very special situations, right? A lot of them are hunting out west. Private areas, highly managed areas. Some of them are even behind a fence, even if they don't tell you they're behind a fence. And so they're able to pass all these big bucks. You know, and I often use the illustration, if a kid, I'm talking 17, 18-year-old kid, right? He's been watching these TV shows, and he sees them passing up these bucks and shooting these monster, 160-inch bucks. And he goes out on state land, or he goes to the woods behind the house, and he shoots himself a 1.5-year-old 6-point, maybe a 1.5-year-old 8-point. Beautiful animal, and he's proud of that buck. And then he shows the animal, or he shows the pictures to his buddies, and they say, "Why'd you shoot that little buck? That's a baby. That's not like they shoot on TV. You should have let him go. Should have let him grow." See? If you want to let them go and let them grow, and if you are able to let them go and let them grow, God bless you. I am not interested in shooting a 1.5-year-old buck, maybe not even a 2.5-year-old buck. I'd rather shoot a doe. But that's my choice. But these hunting shows and these big-name hunters, and you know who they are, and I'd love to name every one of them, but I won't because it'll just come back to bite me. You've seen them. You know how they hunt. They're very, very good hunters, most of them. But they're able to. That's what they do for a living. And they're in highly managed areas. The average Michigan hunter does not have that luxury. So don't get discouraged if you're not seeing bucks like they see and shoot on TV. Let's go to the next level here now. The Michigan Youth Hunt is this weekend. And the Liberty Hunt. I am a huge fan of the Youth Hunt. I love it. This is the first time in several years I haven't had a young hunter, being a grandchild, in the Youth Hunt because they've all aged out now. And my littlest guy is only a year old, so he's not out there yet. My littlest grandson. I love the Youth Hunt. And I think the people who cry and complain and moan about kids shooting big bucks during the Youth Hunt, can I be honest with you? And you're going to get mad at me. I think you're being a crybaby. I think you're being very selfish. And I don't think you're looking at the big picture. Well, I know, but those kids haven't earned that buck. Why do they have to earn the buck? When did that start, that they have to earn the animal? Well, they haven't put in their time yet. Okay. In today's world, with so many different things vying for these kids' attention, don't you think it's good that they're even out there in the first place? I do. Well, this is going to spoil them. They're going to get out there before the deer have been hunted and they're still dumb and it's warm out and it's comfortable. Okay, big deal. Well, I've been watching that buck all year. We've been watching him in our cameras, and he's been in our food plots. And that's on my target. I named that buck. He's a target buck. He's on my hit list. It's not your deer. You don't own it. State of Michigan owns it until you put a tag on it. I don't care if it lives on your property. You don't own it until you put a tag on it. So the neighbor kid shoots it. Man up. Be happy for him. Well, Avery, you know what the Youth Hunt is? It's just an excuse for adults to go out there and shoot a buck and say their kid did it. Now, I might be naive, and I probably am. I don't think that happens very often. I can tell you what, in the circles I run, in the friends that I have, it never happens. If you know a lot of people and run in circles where that happens a lot, you should probably find a different group of friends. Because anybody who does that is a dirtbag, and they are a violator, and you should turn them in. Because they're doing something illegal, and they're creating a very, very bad role model for those young hunters. Now, this year, it looked like the Youth Hunt was going to be does only. They changed that. It is an antlered hunt once again. So that means I will be posting a lot of pictures of young kids with big bucks, and they're all going to have smiles on their faces. And if that makes you irritated, if that makes you mad, so be it. I will post every one of them and be happy to do so. Can I ask this request, though, whether it's a bear picture, whether it's a deer picture, any big game animal? If you're going to send me a picture, check that. If you're going to take a picture of a kid or you sitting over an animal and you're going to post it online or even share it with your friends or just share it with your friends, will you take 2 seconds and put the animal's tongue in its mouth? Honestly, I see these beautiful pictures with a deer's tongue or the bear's tongue hanging out the side of its mouth. And it looks like a cartoon caricature. All we need is stars floating around the animal. Take 2 seconds, put the animal's tongue back in its mouth, and show that critter the respect that it deserves because you took its life. Now, on my phone, in my laptop, I actually have the tools to fix that. I can put its tongue back in its mouth. I'd just as soon you do it in the field, okay? Okay, rant over. But there may be more. It's early in the show. There may be more. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine show after the break, Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV show. I want to find out what's going on in his world. I'm telling you what, he is one of the best young promoters of conservation and hunting in this country today, and he's a Michigan guy. Then Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews talks about the outdoor weekend. How did it go? As I said, I didn't make it down there. I was under the weather. And actually, as I'm here in the studio right now, I realize my voice still sounds like really bad. We will power through. In hour number 2, Mike Horswill, formerly of Jay Sporting Goods, now retired, talks about processing your own venison. Cody Norton from the DNR talks about bear season, the Michigan bear season. It is the Michigan bear season. Then Rich Chrzan of Killer Food Plots joins me to answer this week's Ask Avery question. And my question is, Rich, can you make it rain? No, that's not the question. In hour number 3, we're talking with Ali Shakoor about fishing fall weather patterns, and then we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. My name is Mike Avery. Oh, by the way, if you want to join us for Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack, coming up on the 24th, 989-343-0892 for reservations, 989-343-0892 for reservations. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Lansing, WILS 1320 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge, Iron Mountain, like way north of the bridge, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination, your Saginaw Bay fall waterfowl hunting destination. Great facilities, great location, great people, great service, lots of knowledge, expertise. I just can't say enough about them. If you are going to be fall walleye fishing on Saginaw Bay or fall waterfowl hunting, check out Linwood Beach Marina, great place to jump out into the bay. If you are putting your boat to bed for the season that I'm the one that starts with W, and I won't say it. I won't even say the word. That season that starts with W, Linwood Beach can help you out there as well. They can, I almost said it. I almost said they can, winterize your boat. Darn it. They can take care of your boat and they can shrink wrap it too. LinwoodBeachMarina.com is the website, LinwoodBeachMarina.com. I'm so sorry that word snuck out of my mouth. It's like a swear word. As I look around the outdoor landscape here in Michigan, I come at it from obviously from my perspective. I come at it from the perspective of an old guy. A guy who's been around outdoor media here for 40 years or more or whatever. And it struck me last week as I was looking at the rundown of the show that most of my guests, to be honest with you, are fellow old people too. Because, that's the people I know, that's the people I've worked with for years. And I got thinking, Avery, you need to do a better job of reaching out to younger people. And I immediately thought of Kyle Green. I first met Kyle a couple of years ago, and I have been so impressed with him ever since. Number one, he's a man of faith, which I respect. Number two, he's extremely hardworking. He's very, very, very dedicated to the cause. I mean, he and his friends to put a hunting and fishing show on History Channel. That is huge. Huge. And I thought, what a great time of year to get Kyle back on the show to talk about what he's doing and why he is so passionate about his pursuits. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Kyle, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
I am doing exceptionally well. I mean, it's such a wonderful time of year. But let's talk about you, Kyle. I mean, you are the man. You are so impressive with what you and your friends have done, and it just continues.
Well, thank you for that. I will say I was laughing earlier with your advertisement about the marina there because of the winter being a swear
you said
word.
it. You said the word.
I did. I said the swear word because I like to ice fish. And I know
okay.
You're dancing with the idea of it, if I remember correctly.
I made it out one time last year and really had a good time and was pretty much satisfied with that one trip.
Good for a couple of years, I'd say now.
Maybe one more. Maybe I'll go out again this year. But you're a winter guy. You like that season, eh?
I do. And we actually just got back from Alaska, and it's not winter there yet, but it was a high of 60 degrees while we were there. And I'll tell you what, everybody talks about the sockeye salmon run in Alaska, and I'll be the first to say it's awesome. But when you're sockeye salmon fishing, you're doing something called flossing. If you did here, the DNR would be tapping you on the shoulder and taking you up on shore. It's pretty much snagging, you know? But when you go out for silver salmon or coho salmon in Alaska, number one, the fish is bigger. Number two, you're doing it from a boat, and you're floating spawn, and you get to see that bobber go under, which is, you know, and I know, it doesn't matter whether you're older and I'm younger. Everybody knows that feeling when you see a bobber go under. You become a kid immediately, no matter how old you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I just experienced. We saw bobbers go under like crazy, and the silver salmon, which are bigger than the sockeye, we're just taking bobber after bobber. We were catching fish after fish. You're only allowed to keep 2 a day, and it quickly became, okay, the camera guys are up now because we were catching them so fast. And now I've got a freezer full of incredibly beautiful peach-colored fresh Alaskan salmon, and I got a package with your name on it, Mike. So if you'd like a couple fillets, I'll hook you up.
I appreciate that. How did you get those fish back?
Actually, so we have a trick. So this is one of the Greenway's top secret tricks on how to transport meat for all wild game when you're traveling abroad. So this is the formula. What you do is you find a way to vacuum seal it and freeze it. So we actually carry a portable vacuum sealer with us. We have one by LEM that you can actually charge, take into the field with you, and vacuum seal your game. Then you put it in a cooler, you find a way to freeze it. So, you know, typically we'll book an extra day at the end of the trip or an extra, you know, however it might work to make sure we have access to a freezer. We freeze it. Then we go to Walmart and we buy the cheapest cooler they have with wheels that can hold about 50 pounds of meat. You fill it to the brim with frozen meat. You close it and you wrap it with electrical tape or duct tape, and you can check that like a bag. Then you're only paying $25 or $30 for shipping to get it home, as opposed to spending, I mean, in order to ship it home, it was like $450. In order to check it on like a bag, it was free. So all we had to buy was a $21 cooler and some duct tape. So that's my recommendation.
Nice. I like that. You know, of all the places I've ever been in the world, and back when I had a TV show, I had a chance to see, you know, some pretty cool places. Alaska is the most beautiful, breathtaking place I have ever been to.
It really is. I mean, when you're driving along the coast, we went to Kasilof. So Kasilof forces you to ride along the ocean for a very long time if you're coming from Anchorage, about a maybe 3.5 hour drive. And you're seeing whales, and you're seeing salmon, and you're seeing fishermen. And to actually go down and interact with the people that live there in Kasilof, in different towns like that live off the land. They're not fishing for fun. They're there to get their 30 fish for their family to eat for the winter. And, oh, geez, I said it again. But to interact with those people, to see them fishing, with a lot of them using, like, primitive techniques and harvesting that fish and, like, seeing the relationship between them and the fish and the urgency because they needed it was humbling. Because it's like, you know, we lose perspective, right? We go out and we hunt and fish, Mike, and we harvest that meat, we bring it home, we cook it, we feed it to our families. And that is the circle of life. But we always know we could go to the grocery store and we could buy something we needed. They don't have that, a lot of these people. They don't have the funds to do it, or the way that they live just doesn't offer the means to do it. So it's like that salmon fishing, that caribou meat, that is everything to them. And to kind of get the refresh button pressed on me to, like, hold that perspective that, you know, we're a couple bad moves in this country or any country away from living like that. but also, calling back to our ancestors and how they lived and how people still live today.
So the premise of the Greenway Outdoors TV show, why are you guys doing it? The TV show, the podcast, all the online presence? Why are you doing this, Kyle?
60% of hunting and fishing licenses are sold to white males over the age of 55. And that's not a shot at those guys, because those guys are the ones that are cultivating the next generation. They're the ones that taught me. But at the same time, they won't live forever. And as long as they believe in Jesus, they'll be going up to heaven and being happy. But when that happens, what happens to 60% of the license sales? And that matters because that funding is what pays for our species sustainability efforts, our fish stocking efforts, anti-poaching efforts, all the science that goes into protecting our deer herds. All of the funding for conservation, and the reason why we have more white-tailed deer in North America than ever in recorded history right now, all of that funding, 60% of it's going to go away. Then what? So my goal has been to reach the younger generation through media content that they would want to engage with, to inspire them to go out, participate hunting and fishing, buy those hunting and fishing licenses, and then step into the industry so that we have a future.
And that is such an honorable vision and goal, and you're doing such a great job of reaching that. Why the History Channel route? Why not, Sportsman Channel, Outdoor Channel, the traditional avenues, venues?
Well, we worked with those channels, but the real thing is just vast numbers. The History Channel, we're averaging through our streaming services as well as the History Channel, we're averaging a little bit over 1.8 million to 2 million viewers per episode. I just couldn't get that reach on Sportsman and Outdoor Channel. But beyond that, the people that are watching Sportsman and Outdoor Channel already agree with me and you. They're probably listening to this radio show right now, pumping their fists, agreeing with Mike Avery and Kyle Green. I don't need to convince those guys. I need to convince people outside of the industry. And you know what? Maybe everyone in the history that watches the History Channel aren't going to go out and buy a hunting and fishing licenses, but perhaps when they go to the ballot box or they take to a vote that has to do with hunting, fishing, conservation, or public land, something like that, they'll keep in mind the lessons that they learned from our show. So it's not all about recruitment to necessarily hunt and fish, but more or less also recruiting sympathizers to our cause.
Bingo. I think you've nailed it. And I feel like I'm listening to a younger version of myself talk here, because we are never.
You taught me a lot.
Honestly, I feel very humbled when I hear you say that, because you're doing such a great job. But we are never going to convert everybody to be hunters and anglers. And really, would we want to? On one hand, yes, but on the other hand, it'd be pretty crowded out there. But if we can at least get them sympathetic to our cause and knowledgeable about our cause, so as you say, when they go to the ballot box, which inevitably over these next few years, some kind of a hunting and fishing issue is going to come up. If they will remember what Kyle Green showed on TV, or maybe Avery said on the radio show, and keep that in mind, then I think we've done our job.
Exactly. And that really is so important, because our hunting rights and everything that goes to it are always under fire. And it's also it's not just about the license sales, but it's also holding everybody accountable. You had me on the radio show last year talking about the goose gassing, the goose gas chambers that were going on, where they were going to be killing geese by the thousands using gas chambers, as opposed to opening up seasons and allowing hunters to, be able to hunt more, harvest more geese, those sorts of things that just made a lot more sense than gas chambering geese in public parks. So we pushed back. I did the radio show with you. Our interview on CBS News did something like 2.8 million views, and they had over 2,000 calls to the Department of Natural Resources, and the program got stopped. So we got that overturned, stopped, and now they're looking at other options. And I think the obvious option is to allow hunters and fishermen to go out and harvest geese.
You backed them down, Kyle. Good job. We're talking with Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV show. The website is greenwayoutdoors.com. Greenwayoutdoors.com. Do a Google search. You can find them all over the place. We got to take a break. When we come back, more with Kyle. He's got an event coming up. He's got a new season coming up. I tell you, just watch what he's doing. I mean, he is coming at this from a fresh perspective, a young perspective. I think it is desperately needed in this outdoor world. And I have nothing but good things, great things, wonderful things to say about Kyle and his buddies at the Greenway Outdoors. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Caro on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux, WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots. You know I love that. By the way, Rich Chrzan of Killer Food Plots and his wife Ellie will be at our Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant coming up on the 24th. We still have we've got room for a couple more. If you would like to join us, 989-343-0892 for reservations, 989-343-0892 for reservations. Rich is going to join us later in the show to talk about a product they have to deal with EHD. I will save the details for that conversation, but just know Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots, has a product that can address the EHD outbreak. Need I say more? KillerFoodPlots.com is the website, KillerFoodPlots.com. I would encourage you, though, to look for the Greenway Outdoors TV show. Kyle Green is the guy behind this concept. Kyle, I have to ask you, and I think I may have asked you this before, but I'm going to bring it up again. When you were a kid growing up, did you ever think you would find yourself in the position you are today where you are such an influencer in reaching people of your age about the importance of the outdoor lifestyle?
Well, I'll tell you, I always believe in manifesting what you want, focusing on what you want, driving towards what you want, and always having that focus on specifically having a goal. And I think that's the only way we attain anything. I don't know exactly when it came to me, but I have an idea. When I harvested my first deer, I think I was either 12 or 13 years old, and I was standing over that animal, and I was so nervous the first morning. I remember even thinking, too, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull the trigger. I don't know how I'll feel once the deer's out there. My dad told me, he's like, you'll be able to make that decision once the time comes. And I sat out there for about an hour, and I said, okay, I'm ready. Where are they? And then I ended up harvesting my first 3-point buck that morning. And I remember walking up to it. I remember being nervous in the lead up to it. I remember pulling the trigger. I remember seeing it drop. I remember walking up to it. I remember my dad coming up, helping me gut the deer, helping me process the deer, taking back, showing all their dads at camp what I did, how proud I was, and then going home and cooking it with my dad and actually processing the whole thing by ourselves too. I mean, all the way to freezer, individual packages, taught me how to do everything, and then cooking it for my mom and sister and being like, I gotta make this very important in my life because this is what I care about now. And then once I got older and I realized I was the only kid at deer camp, I wondered why, because everyone had sons. Why am I the only kid at deer camp? I was like, we got to get more people involved. And I started recruiting. And then that grew into what you see today. So I'd have to say that, it was more of I got to start recruiting. And then that idea just got bigger.
And now it's huge. And it's going to get bigger. I know you guys are going to make this even bigger than what it is. You've got a new season coming up. You've got an event coming up. Tell us the details, please.
Yeah, so we have a new season coming out on the History Channel. I'm not allowed to say the exact date that it's coming out, but I would be paying attention in October, is what I will say. But the new season is coming out. It's epic. In this one, we actually went all the way to Africa, and we're building a school there for underprivileged kids. We hunted and harvested and processed meat for communities of people that don't have food otherwise. I got to see all these beautiful children that were, there was 50 kids in a 20 by 20 room, and that was their school with no air conditioning and no electricity. And the only thing most of them have ever eaten is just grits. And we took them packages with SCI, the foundation we work with, and took them packages. We took soccer balls and food and candy and hygiene supplies and meat that we harvested for them and their families to consume. And we're building a school for them right now that's going to be bigger than that one. And that project is just one of many things that kind of happens in our show. And that's the whole thing, is inspiring people oh, I thought Africa was just big game safari hunters that were jerks, that were just there for the mounts and didn't care about anything. But then they see that the truth is these SCI hunters that go over there, that harvest this meat, that donate the meat to help these communities, that their funds and the money goes towards the communities, and how much they help while they're there, and how beautiful the relationship is, and how the African wildlife depend on the hunters coming there in order to even exist, because we're kind of forcing this North American model on Africa by funding these things to help protect the species there, because everything almost went extinct not too long ago. And now, I mean, we saw giraffes and hippos and water buffalo and the most incredible animals, and got to harvest incredible animals and feed people that needed it. It was just a beautiful experience, and that's just one episode. And you're going to have 10 brand new episodes where we're traveling all over the world, meeting different cultures, different people, seeing how they prepare food, and inspiring the next generation to get out and want to experience hunting, fishing, conservation, and cooking meat for themselves the way God intended. It's coming out in October. It's going to be on the History Channel. We're so excited about it. Currently, if you want to see seasons 1 and 2 from the History Channel, you can find that on Waypoint TV. We're streaming like 7 days a week there right now, but you can also just go to their app and watch the episodes there. And those are kind of cool because on Waypoint TV, the episodes are about 30 minutes long, because they're the versions that I like the best, whereas the History Channel episodes are only about 21 minutes long. So you're getting
Kyle,
a lot
I gotta
more
let
out
you
of those
go.
Waypoint
I gotta let
episodes.
you go. You know how time works. I'm out of time. Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors, greenwayoutdoors.com, a wonderful ambassador for this beautiful outdoor way of life. Keep up the good work, Kyle. We'll take a break. When we come back, Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews lets us know how their big outdoor weekend went. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Manistee, WMLQ, 97.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba, WCHT, 600 AM, 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins, Michigan-based, family-owned VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can snap on, zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern in less than a minute? If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins can help you out. Check them out online at versaskins.com or go to amazon.com and do a search for VersaSkins brand. Paul Perrone of VersaSkins was at the big Woods and Water Outdoor Weekend last weekend in Imlay City. It was my intent to make it down there. Something came up and I didn't, and I know I missed a good show. With us to talk more about that and to wrap things up, Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. Tom, how did it go?
Just great, Mike. We could we're very happy, very excited about things the way they went. We had obviously great weather. We had battled the wind on Friday, though. Boy, oh boy, that was tough.
Yeah.
And but no rain and nice cool temperatures, and I think everybody enjoyed themselves. Most everybody enjoyed themselves, and the show came off without really a hitch. It was nice to see crowds back to before COVID, and vendors back with inventory that was pre-COVID, and so it's like we're on the back on the right track, and we're really happy about what happened, and thankful to everybody that helped out for sure.
I don't know if you actually release these numbers, but do you ever say how many people you put through those gates on that weekend?
We do estimates, Mike, because there's just so many things that we don't count. We don't do turnstiles, so we don't get an exact count.
Oh,
so
that's right. Yeah.
We mix in all our complimentary. All our kids are free, and with that kind of vendors and amount of inventory that they brought, there's so many workers on the ground, so it's very hard. But we're always going to be in that 12,000 plus attendance pretty much, and that's kind of what we go by, and I think that keeps the vendors happy, and that's really all it takes, is keeping those vendors happy and making them want to come back for 2026.
Oh, so there will be a show in 2026.
Number 40, Mike.
Wow.
Absolute 40th anniversary. Isn't that great?
So, and again, it'll be the first full weekend after Labor Day weekend because it's the perfect weekend.
Absolutely. That's right. Absolutely. And it's actually a little later this year because Labor Day is on the 7th, I believe. So we'll be the 11th, 12th, and 13th. 2026. We'll be ready to go.
That'll be wonderful as long as it doesn't interfere with the youth hunt. I know that's been a conflict in past years, and there's nothing you can do about it.
It does sound like it. Yeah. No, that's exactly right, Mike. Yep, you're exactly right. We can't control that, but we'll do everything we can to encourage people to come, and we might do a trophy board or something for the youth. We'll do anything we can to get those kids back to the show for sure.
When do you start working on that 2026 show?
Yeah. As we had a nice little conversation with Charlie, he goes, "You get a weekend off before you start again?" I said, "We'll try. We'll try to take a weekend off before we start." Actually, the best time is that Monday after the show where you can sit down and consume all those all the comments you've heard through the show, and of course we all the things people would like to see that didn't see, and so we put those all down immediately so we don't forget, and we start working on those right away. But as far as we're kind of locked in with our layout, so we're good there. But we'll start at the end of October, getting everything ready and start trying to get new vendors and more vendors and make the show better every year. So it's almost a 360-day, 65-day, but not quite.
So you do take comments from vendors and guests into account?
Oh, we do. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And of course, we've got our that social media out there, which, we always look at and take those constructive criticisms and look at them. It's a tough thing to do because we can get vendors there, but we can't tell the vendors what they're going to sell. So That's tough. And the other part that I know people are a little is all the raffles. Well, you got to realize that these are groups that are improving the outdoors, and this is the way they make money at these raffles. And it's pretty easy to walk by and say no thank you, but when you have so many groups there that that are representing the hunters and fishing out there, that you're talking Ducks Unlimited, you're talking Grouse Society chapters and Michigan Bow Hunters and individual groups and clubs of and this is how they make money to put back into the outdoors. So some people get really upset about the raffles, and I would just wish they would understand that this money is for those groups and clubs to improve things in the outdoors.
That's disappointing. Tough. That's disappointing because, like you said, all you got to do is walk by and say no thanks. Right. No thanks.
No thanks. If you don't believe in that, or maybe stop and say, well, what are you doing? What's this going for? And find out and maybe get some knowledge about what that group is, because we had numerous veterans groups there that do things for our veterans.
Always a great crowd. Always a great crowd at the Woods and Water weekend.
You got it, Mike.
Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews, congrats on another great outdoor weekend. We will look forward to the next show in 2026, the 40th annual. It's woods-n-waternews.com, or just do a Google search for Woods and Water News. Processing your own venison coming up in hour number 2.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show. The Outdoor Magazine radio show, by the way, heard on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan. And I do say the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station. And I have to apologize. The further we go into the show, I think the worse my voice gets. I didn't even realize that I had a bad voice today till I get in here into the microphone and start talking, which is really no big deal, right? Unless you're trying to make a living doing an outdoor radio show. So bear with me. We will get through. I think the best way to listen to the show is on your local radio station. I'm a huge fan, obviously, of radio. It was the original form of mass communication, still extremely viable today. And I'm glad to be on so many different stations across our state. And I would ask you to support those affiliates, if you can, by listening to the show on those stations. If you can't, if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, it's nice to know that there's a podcast version of the show that is available. Now, you can hear the podcast on all of the different podcast outlets, including, well, it's on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page. It's also on Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, LinkedIn, Apple, Google Play, yada, yada, yada. I even put it on YouTube as well. It's the same content as the radio show, exactly the same content, but it's not made available until later Sunday afternoon, after the broadcast stations have carried the radio show. I do like podcasting. Each month I do podcasts for Angler Quest pontoons, killer food plots, and today, when we're done here in the studio recording this week's show, Charlie, you going to be with me for that? You doing that one? Okay. We're going to record this month's Offshore Tackle podcast with Nick DeShano, the man at the helm of Offshore Tackle these days, so I'm looking forward to that. You know what else I'm looking forward to? This fall hunting season. Now, I as I've said many times, I'm not as hardcore as I used to be. I'm not as hardcore is the way I'll stay with it, right? But I still enjoy it. I want to get out there. I want to put down a big doe. If the right buck walks in front of me, I will absolutely shoot him. Does it have to be a monster buck? No. Am I interested in shooting a 1.5-year-old buck at this point? No, I'm not. I mean, could it happen accidentally if I misidentify or misjudge or something? Sure. But it would be a mistake because it's not something I intend to do. But having said that, I will always say that do not let anybody, including what Mike Avery says, do not let anybody tell you what deer to harvest other than the state laws, right? You got to do it legally. Whatever you choose to harvest after that point is up to you. Don't let social media, don't let the trophy hunters, don't let the meat hunters, don't let Avery, don't let anybody influence you. If that deer walks in front of you and you get excited and you harvest that animal, be proud of it. But I will say, though, in the case, say, of a smaller buck, if an animal walks in front of you and you look at that and go, geez, am I going to tell my friends about this? Am I going to show it off? Then maybe pass on it. But it's completely up to you. It's your choice. Hunt your hunt is the phrase that I like to refer to. Of course, one of the huge benefits, advantages, rewards of a successful hunt, and by successful, I mean if you do harvest an animal, and we know you don't have to harvest an animal to be successful, but if you do take an animal down, you've got that wonderful venison. You can choose to take it to a processor, which is what I do, or you can really embrace the entire experience and break down that animal and process that animal yourself. I think it adds a whole new dimension to the concept of feeding your family. Mike Horswill is a friend of mine. He was at Jay's for many, many years. That's where I first met him. And he knows more about processing wild game than anybody that I know. And I love to talk with him about that topic this time of year. And he's graciously agreed to join us. Mike, welcome back. How are you?
I'm good, Mike. Thanks for having me back. I always enjoy talking with you as well.
I hear that you went and retired on me.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad to say that I hung it up a year ago, September 1st, and I turned 62 last month, so I've been enjoying the retired life now, and I found that I'm very busy and doing a lot of things that I love to do. So I've been very blessed.
62, you're a young guy.
Yes, that's another reason I'm grateful that I could retire when I did.
Retire when you're young enough to enjoy it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's very important.
Everybody, not everybody, a lot of people I talk to say, you know, I don't know how I went back when they were working. It's like, or, you know, it's like you got no time in retirement. It's like, I don't know how you had time to work, right? There's so much going on in your life now.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I made it my focus to stay busy. You know, when I quit working and punching a clock, there always seems to be a lot of things to work on. I've been lucky enough to have grandchildren in the mix, and they keep me busy. My oldest grandson's an avid fisherman, and I really enjoy my time with them. And there's always projects to do around the house, around the yard. But I do believe that keeping active is key to a happy retirement and a happy life in general.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, your interest in processing your own venison, I suspect that's something you learned as a kid?
Yes. We were brought up, my father instilled the outdoors in myself and my two brothers. We always shared deer camp. We harvested a lot of game birds, game animals, deer, fish. He's originally from the UP, so he instilled all those outdoor activities in us at an early age. And when I was about 12 or 13 years old, I was hunting with my grandfather, and he bagged a 6-point buck. We dropped it off at the local processor. The gentleman wrote down what my grandfather wanted, the cuts of meat he wanted and whatnot, and we went to pick it up a week or two later. And the guy grabbed the slip, and we went in the back. He had a big deep freeze the length of a wall, and it was full of all cuts of meat, just packed full of venison, all finished, all in one cooler. And he started reading the slip, and he just started to handpick just random packs out of this cooler of what my grandfather wished he would get out of his deer. And we left there with a moderate-sized box of meat that was just like community deer were all put in this big deep freeze. And I thought to myself at that point, I thought, man, this can't be right. As far as if you want your own deer, I better educate myself on how to process it, how to take care of it, and turn it into what I want. And then you don't have to worry about that happening. And I'm not saying that happens anymore nowadays. This was back in the early 1970s, and it was just this one place we took it. Because the guys that do that season in and season out, very respectable. They most that I know, keep a tag on each individual animal, and they assure you get your meat back. But that experience really taught me that, hey, man, I need to learn how to do this so I can be assured of what I have.
And is it a complicated process? Is it very involved? Is it something that takes years to learn how to do?
No, I'd say there's a lot of trial and error when you're doing it yourself. It absolutely helps if you have a buddy or a family member. If you put a extra set of hands on it or extra set of eyes, you can kind of navigate around. And my brother and I did it extensively for decades, and we found a method and ways that work for us to achieve the goals that we want out of our harvest. And you learn by doing, and I'd say you can become very proficient after a couple seasons of doing it. You know, you may do something that doesn't work so well one year. You'll remember that next time you do it. You can do it differently until you develop a process that works for you and you can achieve the goals you want with the meat you have.
Does the whole process, does it start in the field when you're field dressing, or what commonly is called gutting? When you gut that deer, can that have an impact on your final product?
Yes, it certainly can, as well as the type of harvest. A quick, clean kill. As sportsmen, we all want the quickest, cleanest kill possible. Sometimes things in the real world don't go as we plan. You may get a marginal kill, a hit where you weren't quite intending. You may not harvest the animal till the next day, or there's a lot of factors that can happen, but a quick, clean kill is key to clean, nice meat. You should educate yourself on how to properly field dress that animal to keep it the cleanest possible carcass that you can have to work on, and then properly hang it in a good area where it's relatively cool or shaded. where it can drain out really good, and that will ensure the best quality of meat moving forward to the process.
Real quick before we take this break, I see a lot of people gutting animals, field dressing animals, wearing gloves these days. Do you wear gloves?
I've done it both ways. Anymore, I don't bother. I did for a while. I always carried some in my pack along with my other field dressing supplies, and you can do it either way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
just
washable.
Curious. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
right,
a
Mike.
good idea to have them.
Well, it is better to have them and not need them than to need them and not have them. We're talking with Mike Horswill, formerly of Jay's Sporting Goods. The website for Jay's, jaysportinggoods.com, jaysportinggoods.com. I will be at Jay's Clare store next Saturday, the 20th, late in the morning. I'll be there with Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives, where we will be presenting a check to Andrew Kumptus of Outdoor Driven, the first installment of the proceeds from the Mike Avery signature knife. That's coming up the 20th at Jay's in Clare. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Muskegon on WKBZ. That's 1090 AM. You can hear us in St. Joe, WSJM 94.9 FM, and north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM, where they are bear hunting in Newberry right now. The season is now open. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the company that makes that sound. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. I just pulled it out of my pocket. I didn't have one with me last week, and I just didn't feel right. I've learned from that. I now have one in the console of my truck if for some reason I ever forget what to have one in my pocket. Rapid River Knives, handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Go to the website, rapidrivernifeworks.com, rapidrivernifeworks.com. Use the promo code MikeAvery15 and get 15% off. If you go to their showroom on US 2, just east of Rapid River, same thing. Use the promo code MikeAvery15. They'll give you 15% off your entire order, except for the Mike Avery signature knife. We didn't want to cut the proceeds out of that knife, because we're giving those profits to Outdoor Driven. Chris Durson of Rapid River is not making a dime on the knife. I'm not making a dime on the knife. But Outdoor Driven is, and that's a group formed to get first responders and veterans on outdoor adventures. Can't say enough about Rapid River, handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, guaranteed for life. So one caveat. Chris was telling me the other day, hey, Mike, tell people who have ordered your knife, if they don't have it yet, be patient. He said, these are a very labor-intensive knife. Each one of these is a custom knife, and it is handmade. So it takes a while to make them. They can't turn these around overnight and get them out to you like Amazon can. So be patient. Your knife is in the works. It will be to you soon as Chris and the crew there can get them to you. But be patient. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com is the website. Now, I have used, not this Mike Avery signature knife, because this is new. This is the one I have in my hand. My previous knife from Rapid River, I have used that to field dress bear, to field dress deer, and I use it every day to cut everything I need throughout the day. That's about as far as I take the process. I'll field dress them and then take them to somebody else. Mike Horswill says you can do that if you want, but if you want the complete experience, process that animal yourself. Mike, how long would it take to say an average Michigan whitetail? How long for you guys to break that animal down?
I'd say you want to give it about a half a day if you want to skin and quarter. And you talk about it being kind of a cumbersome and labor intensive. I found it really helps if you break it down into sessions. So skinning and quartering and deboning the animal, you're looking, if you're taking your time and you're not really speedy at it, it's going to take you a good, 3-4 hours if you hit it pretty hard. But it's always good to take small bites, break it into sessions, and it goes a lot quicker. And it certainly goes better if you have a buddy. But you're looking at it, working on it about a half a day to break it down and get it into the workable sections and cuts that you want to proceed forward with.
Let's go back and go through the basic sections. Do you hang your animals?
Absolutely. You have to hang them, and You can either hang them head up or head down. It's been an ongoing debate among sportsmen for all of time. I've done it both ways. I prefer to hang them head down, and the reason being, if you hang them from the hindquarters, all the fluids and all the blood and the bodily fluids, they all drain out toward the head. Where if you hang them from the head, all those bodily fluids and all the draining goes into the hindquarters, which, as many people know, are where your prime stakes are in the rounds of the animal. Another reason I like hanging them from the hindquarters is, skinning-wise, it's easier for me to skin the animal. You start around the hocks on the legs, you take the tail off, you can pull it all the way down, and then you pull it around the front shoulders, which is the most cumbersome, difficult part of the process. But it's easier for me if I'm pulling down on that, and then you just take it down the neck to the head, take the head off, the animal's completely skinned. Whereas if you start with the head up, you cut around underneath the head, you got to come straight down the brisket, you got to start pulling the hide back and around. I found I get a lot more hair on the meat. It's a lot more difficult for me to navigate the front shoulders, so I prefer to hang them head down.
Do you hang the animal with the skin on or skin off?
Skin on. After a good harvest and a clean field dressing, it goes right to the buck pole or wherever you're going to hang it. If you have the luxury of having a buck pole, which 90% of the sportsmen that I talk to that have any experience at all have a place set up to hang their deer. It's important to hang it because it does allow the carcass to drain out and all the blood to run out of it, and you'd be surprised. You think all the blood's coming out during the field dressing process, but you'd be surprised how much remains and will continue to drain out of that animal for the next 24 to 48 hours.
So how long do you hang it?
I like hanging them for 2 to 3 days minimum. I've hung them, weather permitting, for 5 to 7 days. And I also, a lot of guys like to pull the hide off right away because it's easier to skin. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're going to expedite the butchering process, it's good to get that hide off, I guess, if you're going to cut it up next day. If you want to let the animal hang, you're better off leaving the hide on. That puts a protective coating on the meat itself. It keeps it from drying out. You get a much nicer cut of meat to work on if you leave that hide on until you're ready to actually skin and quarter it up.
Okay, so you hang it, you skin it, and then you quarter it, right? That's the next step, quartering?
Yes, quarter it up. First thing I do is take the front shoulders off. They're easy to remove. There's just muscle holding them onto the rib cage. Remove those front shoulders. Then I go ahead and I take out the back straps. You make incisions at the top, at the base of the hams where it comes up to the rib cage. Just start there and peel those back straps right on down all the way through almost to the neck area. They'll come right out. And then at that point, I go ahead and you can either take a neck roast, or I remove any of the grinding meat that's left on the rib cage and under where the shoulders were and the neck area. At that point, you can go ahead and cut off the spine where you started and to take your back straps, and then that just leaves you with the hindquarters. But I overlook the step that's most important to most sportsmen is the tenderloins, the inside tenderloins. Those usually come out first. A lot of times at camp, when you hang an animal, I've seen those in the frying pan within 2 hours of the hanging, or It's like a celebratory thing. So don't overlook the inside loins. Those are a prized part of the animal, and on a clean harvest, you can't beat them. So,
back straps, though, tenderloins not to be confused with back straps, two different pieces.
Yes, absolutely. People, they call the back straps the loin as well, but the actual tenderloin on the white-tailed deer is on the inside part, just in front of the hindquarters, between the hindquarters and the ribs, on the lower part of the spine. I'm sure all sportsmen, anyone who's hunted any length of time, are aware of where those prized tenderloins are at.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You drop off a deer at the processor, you start looking inside those. It's amazing the number of deer who go to the processor with the tenderloin still in them. Yeah,
that's kind of unusual. That would be a flag to me of someone who's not quite as experienced in the field. Because any experienced hunter I know, like I said, I've seen those tenderloins hit the frying pan within hours of harvest. So they're very good. They're highly prized. It was my mother's favorite part of the process. We hung our deer in her shed. We had her buck pole at her house for years, and that was her only stipulation.
that was her
Make sure
payment.
you bring those tenderloins in. Yep. And we would bring them in and continue hanging the animal, and by the time we came back in the house, she would have them sautéed up in a pan with toast and butter made, and we'd put them on toast, and it was just fantastic.
Oh, man. So once you get the animal quartered, what is your favorite thing? What do you like to do? What does the Horswill family eat the most of?
Well, we used to turn it into a lot of steaks. Steak was our number one staple, and when I was feeding my kids, and we used it as a main food source, the steaks, the loins, the backstrap steaks, and the hindquarter steaks are fantastic. Then you're stuck with all the rest of the grinding meat. In the early days, that would just go into burger. Burger and steaks are your most usable protein that you can put away off a harvest if you're going to use it as a main food source. As I've gotten older and my kids are gone and we don't rely on it so much as table fare for a dinner, I really love making jerky and salami and summer sausage. And you can do a lot of things with the grinded meat because there's a lot of grinded meat on a whitetail. You can make salami, summer sausage, you can make snack sticks, brats, you can make a breakfast sausage. It's real easy to make. So you have a lot of options with the grinded meat, and I've really enjoyed over the last couple decades of making a lot of salamis, jerkies, and that type of thing. It's more gratifying, and it's kind of a hobby, and it's kind of fun to do if you have the right tools.
How much meat are you going to get off an average Michigan whitetail? Not post-processing, but before you process it, just meat in a bin. How much are you going to have?
Well, on your 1.5-year-old bucks, I'd say you're going to be looking at 40 to 50 pounds on a clean kill.
That's a lot of meat, though, Mike. That's a lot of meat.
Yeah, that is a lot of meat. And a lot of people, they see that animal, or especially if they've been dragging it out of the woods, they swear that thing weighs 300 pounds, But I weigh all my deer, and I have a scale, and I advise any sportsman that's going to do their own. It's fun to know exactly what that dressed animal weighs before you start. And it's an eye-opener for you, too, because you can harvest a smoking big central Michigan buck, and it may only tip the scales at 180 dressed. I mean, that's a brute for the mid-Michigan buck. Your yearling bucks or 1.5-year-old bucks, you'll find that a lot of those are 95 to 105 pounds, or if you get one that's pretty chunky, he might break 110, 115, and that's with hide and everything on. So if you come out of it with 40 to 50 pounds of meat before you start cutting it into what you want to make it into, I'd say that's about average. On your bigger bucks, say you get a nice 8-9 point that may be a 3.5-year-old, 2.5, 3.5-year-old, those will tip the scales anywhere from 155 up to almost 170. So, and you'll get a little more usable meat out of those. Yeah. And it just depends on how much time you want to put in there, how meticulous you are at removing every bit of meat you can get. And it really helps to take your time. You'll get a much better yield if you don't rush it.
Mike, always a pleasure. I would encourage people next week, if they listen to the Daily Outdoor Magazine Minutes, it's with you going into more detail on some of these. I'm going to let you go, though, because I've got to move on with the show. I wish you a wonderful fall season, and I look forward to the chance to talk with you again.
Yeah, I thank you, Mike. It's always a pleasure to be here, and kudos to you and Chris Dewerson at Rapid River for what you're doing for sportsmen, because they're a great company and they make a great product. So.
Appreciate you saying that. Mike Horswill of Jay's Sporting Goods, Cody Norton coming up next to talk bear hunting. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. The Reader crew was just over to my house. They were doing part of their normal fall services. This time, they were aerating. You know, where they bring in that machine and they cut those plugs out of the lawn and the plugs then just lay on top and they break back down. It's really nice. It makes your lawn thicker and softer, in my opinion, just based on what I've seen. But whether it is fall trimming, fall cleanup, whatever it is, the folks from Reader can take care of you. They've been doing it for 60 years, so they know what they're doing. Check them out online. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. I love to bear hunt. I love to bear hunt. It's my favorite thing to do in the outdoors. I am not bear hunting in Michigan this year. Hopefully next year. If I was bear hunting in Michigan this year, I might be in the Michigan Bear Woods this weekend because bear season is here. Cody Norton is the wildlife biologist for the DNR, responsible for keeping track of our Michigan bear population, and he's with us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Cody, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, Mike. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Bear hunting in Michigan. I feel like there is an increased interest in it, or maybe it's just my personal bias.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Just from, I think last year we had just under 68,000 applicants, either for a preference point or a license. This year that jumped up to almost 73,000.
Wow.
And we've been seeing that continue to climb in recent years, which is awesome to see more interest in hunting, but also a little bit more competition for those licenses too.
Well, yeah, that's true. Do you think the interest is because we're seeing bears maybe downstate more than we used to, and it gets people thinking about going bear hunting?
That certainly could be. Obviously, most of our human densities are in the southern lower peninsula and creeping up into the northern lower, and we've been seeing bears expand their distribution into the western part of the northern lower and farther and farther south. So maybe people that didn't realize that was an option, or they weren't in their backyard,
Yeah.
certainly could have played a role.
How is our Michigan bear population doing?
It's doing great. In the northern lower, we've been trying to stabilize that population for several years. We finally are. So our population estimates have been pretty consistent. We've got just over 2,100 bears in the northern lower, our latest estimate. For the UP, we've been seeing that population increase in recent years. Right now, we're about 10,350 bears as our latest estimate. So we've been seeing, stable to increasing populations in the state ever since we're trying to grow those populations since 2012.
What is our success rate for Michigan bear hunters?
It really depends on what unit you're in and what hunt period you have in the UP, especially. But we certainly, some of the northern lower units are, close to 50%, which also makes it hard to give out a lot of licenses when half the hunters are successful. In the UP, it's generally in the 30 to 40% success range for first hunt periods, on down to 8 to 10% success for the third hunt period.
Yeah, that third hunt gets pretty tough up there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely does. Starts later. Bears are starting to think about denning up and a little less activity going on. But also an opportunity for hunters to at least get out in the woods and have a chance at a bear.
That's the way I look at it. Hey, my odds aren't good, but at least I'm out there bear hunting.
Yep, absolutely.
Cody, from a purely selfish perspective, as a Michigan bear hunter, I would like to see you guys let out more bear tags. Why are you not doing that?
Well, I think we have a population, right, that can support a certain amount of harvest. We certainly try to look at different ways that we could set up harvest to provide opportunity. It's usually a balance, and working with stakeholders and trying to have them kind of come to the same conclusion on what they want their hunt to look like is very difficult. But right now, like I said, we have high success in especially a lot of the northern lower units and some of those first hunt period units in the UP. And so, it's a trade-off between people being successful when they draw a tag or being able to draw a tag often and maybe not being as successful. And so I think it's really neat. The UP setup that we have provides opportunities for both of those, perspectives. The northern lower, we just have the single hunt period right now, which makes it a little bit harder to give out more tags down there without increasing harvest, where we'd be, concerned about the population potentially.
And quick, before I have to let you go, bears have to be checked in. Why is that? What are you looking for?
Yeah, so every single bear gets a seal, which helps ensure that it was legally harvested before it goes to a processor or taxidermist. But then we're also able to collect, information on where that bear was harvested, the sex of the bear, and then we collect a tooth, which gives us an age estimate, and we're also able to get genetic samples, which help with estimating our bear population. So really important information that we're able to get, and because hunters are participating and helping us out.
Very, very quick. Average size of the Michigan black bears taken during the season?
Taken during the season, I'd say right around the 130-pound mark. We certainly have a lot larger bears out there, but when it comes down to what bears show up and what people harvest, I'd say that's kind of our typical bear that we see.
All right, Cody, I appreciate that. I got to let you go. Cody Norton of the DNR, Michigan.gov/DNR, Michigan.gov/DNR. Cody's the guy you want on your side if you're trying to get a bear tag. I'm joking, because I've tried to twist his arm. It doesn't work. We'll take a break. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery question. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us, let's go to Traverse City, WTCM 580 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this segment works is you can send me an email. Please send it to me, Mike, at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Please don't send me a social media message. Please send me an email, Mike, at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That is what Scott Arnold did. He said, Mike, I hear about an EHD outbreak in the southern part of the state. What can you tell me about it, and what can people do about it? How does EHD compare to CWD? EHD is caused by or carried by midge flies, which are no-see-ums, which come up out of the mud when water levels recede, when you've got a dry year, like it's dry this fall, right, or late summer. It is not always fatal, but it is more immediate than CWD. So I think EHD is a bigger threat to a local deer herd than CWD is, but I'm no biologist. Now, here's an interesting part. Scott says, what can people do about it? And this isn't very well known. To help me explain more about this, Rich Chrzan of Killer Food Plots is standing by. In fact, let's bring him in now, Charlie. Rich, welcome back to the show. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Mike, and you?
I'm doing good. Now, I'm hoping that your food plot planting efforts have slowed down a little bit, but I got to believe you're getting called into these EHD situations to use your Aqua Shield. Tell me about Aqua Shield, and is it too late to use it for this year's outbreak?
No, it's not too late. Fortunately, we're not seeing any signs yet in our area that I've heard of. So, that's perfect time to get in there, and I've actually been out treating water holes this week when I got back from the show. It's definitely something you want to get ahead of. Ohio's getting devastated. It's really sad to see what it's doing down there in the southeast part. There have been some reports in Michigan. It's not near as bad, but yeah, what we're trying to do is we're trying to kill that midge fly in our Aqua Shield. What it does is it goes into the pond or watering holes, and it destroys the habitat that the midge fly and mosquito larvae and all them larvae live in. And as it's devouring that habitat, it suspends those larvae, and then it kills those larvae, which, minimizes the outbreak or the hatch of the midge fly. So what we're learning, Mike, is I was kind of misunderstood myself on how the midge fly actually carried the disease. And I guess I was under the impression that the midge fly came out of the ground with the disease in it already. But what I'm learning by a couple of different very good sources is that the midge fly actually will bite a deer that is infected with EHD, but doesn't show any symptoms. So the deer is a host. It's carrying it, but it's not showing any of it. When that midge fly bites that host deer, now the midge fly has that EHD, and it goes around with a lifespan of up to 4 days, and it bites multiple other deer, which are now infecting those deer.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, this is something, Mike. I'm not gonna lie. I learned this within the last 2 days. I reached out to a couple of people that I work with on deer farms, and they said that is the veterinarian says that they're hearing the same exact thing. So I'm not a scientist. I can't prove it. I'm just going by what a lot of smart people are telling us.
Sure.
And it really kind of makes you start thinking differently of how that disease is working. So
is Aqua Shield, is it a liquid? Is it a powder? Is it a granule? How do we use it?
So it's a liquid, and you can check us out at Killer Food Plots on Facebook, our Facebook page. I've been distributing it and pouring it in. All you do is you pour it in. You can pour it in along the edge. Just got to make sure you're getting it in the water. It works best. You can get in a boat. You can paddle out. You can pour it along or in the deepest spot. If you don't have access, then you can stand on your dock and pour it in that way also. And it's going to work, goes directly to the bottom of the pond and starts devouring that mucky buildup of all the goose poop and anything else that's fallen in that pond and is just decaying.
All right, so I think this is good to know. And the website is killerfoodplots.com, killerfoodplots.com. And you and your wife, Ellie, will be joining us for Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack Restaurant on the 24th, correct?
That is correct. I'm looking forward to that. I do every year.
I'm looking forward to that as well. Folks can join us, and we still have a few seats left. 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. And if you want to learn more about Aqua Shield, about Killer Food Plots seeds, about their lineup of scents, go to that website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. Better yet, join us in West Branch when you can talk to Rich and Ali Chrzan of Killer Food Plots face-to-face. 989-343-0892 for reservations. And as always, a big thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. And thank you, Scott Arnold, for that email asking about EHD, what we can do about it, and CWD. A lot of initials there, right? EHD, not good. CWD, not good. CWD as bad as they think? EHD as bad as they say? Uh-huh. That's just me. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. Thank you again, Rich. When we come back in our third hour, we're going to talk about fishing. We're going to talk about switching from a summer fishing pattern to fall with Ali Shakoor. And then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner coming up in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. And welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. So glad to have you along with us as we continue this transition into the fall. I mean, we're well into September now, right? And don't you just love it? Absolutely love it. I would like to see some more rain. Or some rain, period, right? For our food plots that are looking not so good. Like to see some rain for the food plots. I'm looking forward, since I don't have a Michigan bear tag this year, and by the way, good luck, Michigan bear hunters. And Michigan bear hunters, youth hunters this weekend. I talked about this earlier in the show. I would love to see your pictures. If you are a successful bear hunter, if you have a youth hunter and you want to share those pictures with me, send me an email. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Send those pictures that way. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Please, please, please take 2 seconds and tuck the animal's tongue back in its mouth. It doesn't take any extra time. It makes for a much better picture. It makes us look like the respectful stewards of the resource that we are, as opposed to bumpkins. Honestly, when I see a beautiful picture of a kid with a nice buck during the youth hunt and the tongue is hanging out of its mouth, I want to scream. I want to put stars around it like a cartoon, like a dead animal. It doesn't do us any good these days if we try to portray ourselves in that manner. The good news is, and I don't want to do this because it's extra work for me, and I'm human, I'm basically lazy, I guess, is I can hide that tongue. I can make it go away. But isn't it better just in the field for all of your pictures, you show that animal some respect? But I'm getting off topic. Most of our discussion so far this week has been about the fall hunting seasons. But let's not forget about fall fishing. Fall fishing can be some of the most productive and exciting of the year. The fish are bigger. They're putting on the feed bag. They're getting ready for, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say the word, winter. Ali Shakoor is a guy, I've still never met Ali in person, but I feel like I know the guy because we've talked so many times on the radio show, so many times on different podcasts, and I follow him on social media. I find him to be a fascinating guy. He's a tournament angler. He is a fisheries biologist. He is an educator. He is a media personality, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk about this transition into fall fishing. Ali, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mike. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking about some fall fishing. Trying to focus on the fishing because as this air temperature cools, you mentioned bear hunting. Man, my mind starts to drift to the woods, but I'm really excited about the fall fishing also.
What do you like to hunt, Ali? Whatever season's in front of you, or do you have a favorite?
Whatever season's in front of me, I just love to get outside and enjoy nature. And as far as I know, I'm only here one time, so I really try to take in as much as I possibly can.
Oh, I don't blame you there. And is there any better time of year to do that than the fall season coming up?
There's no better time. The leaves are starting to turn. The air's getting a little bit chilly in the morning time, and the blood starts to boil, and it's just an awesome time of the year for folks who live in the state of Michigan here.
How is fishing in the fall different than fishing in the summer? Could I go out on my beloved Saginaw Bay and fish the same water, the same speed, the same baits in the fall, say October, maybe even November, that I do in July and catch fish?
Yeah, undoubtedly you could. We're blessed here. I say all the time that you can go out on a lot of bodies of water here around the state of Michigan and do everything wrong and catch fish. And that's not a slight to anyone, but we're super blessed to have the fisheries that we have and have the amount of fish that we do have here. But the fish do, they do particular things in the fall in that transition from summertime, where if you're going to change your pattern a little bit, your catch rates will definitely go up. Size will undoubtedly go up. So you can do the same things, but it would be wise to make some shifts in how you get after those fish.
So what are those shifts? What should we keep in mind?
Well, you mentioned Saginaw Bay, and I talk about Lake Erie a lot. In the summertime, of course, we all know we had a really hot summer. Surface water temperatures were about 80 degrees or so. It was absolutely miserable out there at times.
Yeah.
As those water temperatures start to cool, those fish start to make some migrations away from the deep summer water that they were hanging in and back to some of the shallower structure that they were on in the springtime, actually the exact same structures that they were on in the springtime.
The old saying, general knowledge used to be, as the water temp cooled, we slow down our trolling speed. Is that the case?
I used to be of that same school of thought also, but the last couple of years things have changed. I don't know if that's because the water has stayed a little bit warmer longer in the year, as the years progressed the past couple of years ago. But I have found that in some instances in the fall, that speed actually does kill. And some of that may not be actually feeding, walleye or predators. If you run into a predator in the woods, what's the first thing they tell you? Don't run. Speed triggers that predatory response. So there are days when the fish aren't actively feeding that if you really bump that speed up, that you'll trigger a reaction bite as opposed to a feeding response. So, you can think outside the box a little bit when it comes to bait speed in the fall.
Well, what about the size of the baits? Because the bait fish are bigger this time of year than they were in the spring too, right?
They are bigger, but interesting. Travis Hartman and the folks down at Ohio DNR did some stomach content analysis out of Huron, Ohio, which is a popular spot in the fall for the brawl and fall fishing. And they found that the most common bait fish size in those fish stomachs were 2 to 3 inch gizzard shads. Now, the question is that a function of availability? Those fish have spawned. That's the most abundant size down there. Or is it a function of targeting? My educated guess would be it's a function of just pure numbers. Fish are looking for the most bang for their buck. If they have to chase down 12 gizzard shad as opposed to 12 3-inch gizzard shad as opposed to eating one 8 or 9-inch gizzard shad, they're going to get more bang for their buck as far as energy expenditure from that larger bait. So I tend to focus on fishing some larger baits in the fall time.
Kind of a screwy, strange question, so forgive me here, but I'm asking you to put your biologist hat on now. I sometimes feel, Mike Avery, when I'm fishing, like I give these fish too much credit. I think they're smarter than what they actually are. Is there any reason to believe at all that fish reason, or is it all instinct and aggression and hunger and mating and the basics?
I try to. I don't know. Sometimes it feels like they're doing things intentionally.
Yes,
to me personally,
yes,
I feel kind of slighted at times out there. I can't lie. I try to keep it simple though. I really try to think about just like you said, just the bare instincts: mating, cover, food, temperature, and I take out those other things. Now there are some instances where fish they can learn. And there are instances where sometimes that those things are passed on. It's been shown in the laboratory at least. But when you're out and about, just try to think about those main things that walleye need to survive, and you'll be fine.
Okay, but you bring up an interesting point. Fish can learn. So if a fish gets hooked by a red bait of a certain size and he gets hooked but not landed, might that fish avoid a red bait of a certain size for the next couple of days?
I think it's very possible, especially if they get a good look at it. Undoubtedly, they're not quote unquote stupid, so they can learn. They do pick up that certain things can harm them. So yeah, if you're seeing that, then it might be wise to change baits or go to a different area or something along those lines. I think it's very possible.
You also talked, Ali, about as our waters change, as our conditions change, and I think you were talking about a change in seasons, but I want to go back year to year here. Our waters are clearer than they've ever been, I think. We've got those microplastics that you study so much there in Lake Erie. I mean, we've got a resource, we've got a fishery, we've got an environment that I feel like is constantly changing.
It is constantly changing. But I think that the rate of change is so small that we don't have to consider it day to day. Generally speaking, water quality, of course, can change hourly. Water temperature, water has a high specific heat, so the temperature doesn't change. It'll drop a little bit, but it'll warm right back up. I think you have to think about these changes more over a period of time, more seasonally, as opposed to day to day for the most part. But there are changes that are occurring. You mentioned water clarity, so fish are spooking easily. We were in 150 feet one day out of Alpena, and we were chasing fish that were about 50, 60 feet down, and those fish were spooky. They ran from the boat.
Wow.
So it is definitely impacting how we go about chasing these fish and making it a little bit tougher at times.
Ali, hang tight. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Ali Shakoor, a very well-known fisherman, tournament fisherman, educator, media personality, fisheries biologist. His website, alishakoorfishing.com. That's alishakoorfishing.com. Or just do a Google search for Ali Shakoor Fishing. You'll find him all over the place. We'll take a break. When we come back, lots more to talk with Ali. I find him to be so fascinating because he's not only an angler, but he's a biologist. So he's got that mindset, and I'll ask him how that affects his time on the water after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across our great state of Michigan. Also available as a podcast. I recommend, though, if you can, you listen to those broadcast stations, including WLDN in Ludington, 98.7 News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. In Sandusky, in the Thumb, WMIC, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And north of the bridge in Manistee, WTIQ, 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Truck Trolley. If you have a truck, and I think most of us do, right? If you're listening to the show, you probably have a truck. Are you tired yet of climbing up into the bed of that truck and reaching way up into the front of that truck to get stuff that slid to the front when you came to a stop? I was, but I had a solution. And my son James called it my old man hook. I took a broom handle, cut it off, and I screwed a hook into the end of it. So I would stand at the end of the tailgate and reach all the way up into that truck and grab whatever had slid forward and slide it back to me. It worked, but it was a pain, and if the item was heavy, it kind of hurt your back. Andy Weiss of Truck Trolley, Michigan-based, family-owned, you know I love that Truck Trolley, came up with a solution of, it's not permanent because you can take it out in under a minute, but it is a hard plastic, very strong tray, basically I'll call it, on wheels that is attached to your truck bed using straps. So if you need to carry gravel or sand or something else, you just take it out. I find myself leaving it in there almost all the time because whatever you put in the truck trolley, you just grab that truck trolley and you slide it out, and there it is waiting for you at the tailgate. It's a genius idea, and I don't know why somebody didn't think of it earlier, but thank God Andy Weiss did. The website, trucktrolley.com, that's trucktrolley.com. Andy will be joining us for Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch on the 24th. We are giving away a truck trolley to somebody there that night. We are also giving away a Mike Avery signature Rapid River knife that night as well. If you would like to join us, call for reservations 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. I need to get Ali Shakoor to one of our Wednesday Night Lives sometimes. Oh, in fact, speaking of that, special guest this time around, Andrew Kumtis of Outdoor Driven. Outdoor Driven is the group getting the proceeds from the Mike Avery signature knife. And Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone is also a special guest. Lance Valentine, a mutual friend of mine, and Ali Shakoor. Ali's with us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Ali, we got to get you up here sometime, buddy.
I'd love to get up there, man, for a Wednesday Night Live. And you mentioned Lance, awesome guy, awesome outdoorsman, tons and tons of knowledge. We've taken stuff from each other to do seminars with, and we've sat down and had some long talks. Folks tune into that; they will get a wealth of knowledge from that guy. He's very awesome and very knowledgeable about any fishery around. Oh, yeah, I have nothing but respect for Lance. And I know in the past when he used to have his fishing education weekends down on Lake Erie, you were often part of those. Lance is bringing it up to Saginaw Bay this time, so that'll be interesting. It will be very interesting. I haven't talked to him, but he knows that I'll be there. I will pull my boat up there and make an appearance, and he'll usually ask me to do some talking or something, but I really enjoy those. I learn a lot as much as talk as he asks me to. So if you're interested in really learning about Saginaw Bay, the ins and outs, bait fish and fish migrations, how those fish move, how Lance targets them, it'll be a great opportunity to go learn a bunch up there and cut the learning curve quite a bit. Ali, I find it interesting that you say you learn. I mean, I'm thinking of you as you are the teacher, you are the master, you are the fisheries biologist, you are the tournament angler. So to hear you say that I'm still learning, I find that very interesting. Yeah, well, they say the man who knows anything knows that he knows nothing at all. So, the day I feel like I know it all, there's something wrong with me. There's always something to learn. I'm always seeing something that raises another question out there on the water. Yet you have to really be observant. You'll notice a lot. It'll make you think, and it'll make you a better angler, a better outdoorsman overall. So I'll learn from everyone and anyone that have something to offer.
One question I like to ask people here on the show is, how did you get to where you are? When you were a kid growing up, did you think you would end up where you are now?
Oh no, not even close. I got to be here just from interactions with just a bunch of great people over the years. Starting with my dad, who was the ultimate Michigan man when it came to sporting, hunting and fishing and getting all my brothers and sisters and I out in the woods as children. Going off to college and coming across some really, really good Great Lakes scientists, Ed Rutherford, Jim Diana, Dave Jude. The list goes on and on and on. I was there the first day that Dave Jude brought the first round goby. He brought it to the basketball court. We played basketball together. Jim Diana, who was my advisor at Michigan, just awesome scientist who gave me everything that they had to offer as far as knowledge and experience. And I have tons of people who have poured into me to get me to this point. I'm so grateful for those folks. I did not do it on my own, not even close.
I think what you're saying about being surrounded by good people. I was just talking to Charlie Root here in the studio about this earlier, and I think this is anything in life, work, fun, whatever vocation, whatever profession you're in. If you align yourself with good people, the right people, they can make this journey a lot easier and more fun, I think.
They definitely can. But I feel like in order to align yourself with the right people, you have to carry yourself in a certain way. That's with fishing, that's with life, that's with anything. People are always watching you. When I'm out and about, I think, or I do this show, I do something, I know there's kids out there who may be thinking about this field. They're watching and listening. When I'm at a tournament and I'm at the local store and I'm buying baits, the guys are watching and looking to see how I act. So I try to carry myself in a way that to represent sponsors, my family, my name. I have my father's name. Those things are important to me. So if you carry yourself the right way, eventually those types of people I feel will gravitate to you. And sometimes you have to seek those people out, but then you will reap the benefits. So you have to carry yourself a certain way, and you have to be open to receive those types of blessings from people.
Great advice, Ali. I appreciate you bringing that up. What about your background as a biologist? How does that affect you as a fisherman? Do you look at things differently?
We talked about simplicity earlier. So when I go to a body of water and I start to fish, the first thing I'm doing, yes, I've done my homework as a biologist, as someone who has some experience. I go out and I graph and I just try to look and go fishing and see what I see. Then if things start to look a little bit different or they're not quite what I expect, then I think the scientific thinking starts to kick in. Well, where will they be? What's going on? Why am I not seeing what I should be seeing? So there's a mix of both, but I would suggest to just keep it simple in the beginning. You don't want to make it overly complicated. There's a lot of variables involved. So sometimes it's helped me. Sometimes it's hurt me, but I'd like to think that it's helped me more times than it hasn't.
What are you working on these days? Any interesting projects?
Yeah, actually, I'm sitting on my kitchen table right now processing data. I'm processing some hydroacoustic data for both Lake Michigan and Lake Erie. So in Lake Erie, I'm using multi-beam acoustics, basically fancy words for sonar, to map subsurface harmful algal bloom. I'm actually mapping it cell by cell, and then how fish communities are relating to it inside and outside the bloom. Then on Lake Michigan, I'm mapping fish community distributions in warm water, cold water, and average water temperature years by extant ice cover and surface temperature. So how these fish are relating to temperature in Lake Michigan and how they're relating to harmful algal bloom in Lake Erie. Very tedious, very time-consuming, extremely data-intensive, but the results are pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to getting some papers out there in the near future and present. I'll be presenting this work at a couple of conferences next year.
And why? Why is this information interesting to you and beneficial eventually to us as anglers?
Well, for instance, I'm talking about Lake Michigan and the water temperature. So as water temperature changes or averages out over the year, these fish are. So what I'm seeing is that these fish are shifting their location from shallow water to deeper water, according to water temperature and ice cover. So in years where there's very little ice cover, warmer water temperature, those fish are staying a little bit closer to shore, and vice versa. So when you have this kind of information beforehand, it kind of cuts down on the looking part. Also with Lake Erie, the harmful algal blooms aren't going anywhere. They're out there every year. So I'm mapping to see if they are adjacent to the edge of the bloom, if they're inside the bloom, if they're outside the bloom and avoiding it. The same with bait fish. So this scientific research isn't just for the sake of knowing. There's a practical application for all of it. And for me, that's important. I don't want to do something just to know it. I'm an outdoorsman, and I want to do something to benefit other outdoorsmen as a result of the work that I do.
And how are you tracking these fish? Are there transmitters on them, or are you doing it all by sonar, fish finders?
So this is all by sonar, yeah. Fish. So it's about a 6 foot long device. It has 4 transducers, about a foot across, foot in diameter, at 70, 110, 200, and 400 kilohertz. And on Lake Michigan, it is a 32-mile-long transect that we pull that thing. It's pinging the entire way. The data is absolutely incredibly large. For Lake Erie, we do a ping from the sailboat buoy out of Bowles Harbor all the way out to Sputnik. The Lake Erie fishermen know what I'm talking about. Out in the outer channel buoy for the Maumee River. So that's about an 8-mile pull. So we're pinging the whole way, and I'm able to track fish because of the multi-beam. I'm able to actually ping individual cells of microcystis. So again, very super data intensive, but very, very informative as to how these fish are relating to both temperature and bloom.
And I'm glad, Ali, that you're out there to do these types of research. So, we as anglers can benefit, you can benefit, and the communities around the lakes can benefit as well. Ali Shakoor, I think you're a fascinating guy. I would encourage people to check out your website, alishakoorfishing.com, and to find you on social media. Have a wonderful fall, my friend. And listen, when you guys are up here for the Fishing Education Weekend over there on the bay, I'm going to come over and say hi.
That sounds awesome. I'd love to finally meet you in person, and heck, maybe one day we can get out and do some fishing together.
That would be wonderful. Fishing with Ali Shakoor, alishakoorfishing.com. That would make my summer. How cool would that be? When you watch Ali on his videos, like the Next Bite and stuff, the guy has got it dialed in, and he's an excellent communicator. I think he's a valuable asset for our industry, for our fisheries, and just an all-around good guy. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, a few more things I want to shoot the breeze about, and then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner coming up here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Tawas on WIOS 1480 AM 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw, WSGW AM and FM 790 AM 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW, but you know that for these 3 hours, it's called the Outdoor Magazine studio. Nobody's fought me over it yet. I have had a little pushback from a certain young man who's about my height. Charlie's like, who? Oh, I know what you mean. But he's back down on it now. So, for 3 hours, this corner of this studio is the Outdoor Magazine studio. And I appreciate it. I appreciate my partnership with WSGW. Charlie Root, who's in here with me now, Jonathan Dent. Charlie gets the crowds in the parking lot chanting, Charlie. John will eventually. But I honestly appreciate all of my affiliates, like 32 of them. If they did not give me access to their airtime, and believe me, it's valuable airtime. There are a lot of different shows and content and people vying for those time slots. And it's taken a while, years, to put this network together and establish this relationship with all of these stations across the state. And I take that relationship very seriously, and that's why I say every week I encourage you to listen to the show if you can on your local radio station. We need to support our local radio stations. Okay, so what else is going on? If you have any control over the weather, can you make it rain, please? At least rain on our food plots. If you don't want rain at your house, that's fine. But if you could just, those three food plots, if you could just make it rain there, I'd be really happy. Bear season open now in Michigan. Good luck, Michigan bear hunters. Send me your pictures. Also, send me your pictures of kids from the youth hunt this weekend. Please stick the animal's tongue back in its mouth. I don't feel like that's a lot to ask, but every year I'll get 100 pictures of smiling hunters over big game animals with the animal's tongue sticking out of its mouth. I think it's disrespectful. And I realize in the heat of the moment it's easy to overlook. But, please put this in the back of your mind and think about it. Be prepared. I do want to see your pictures. I do want to share them with the world. But if we're going to share them with the world, let's make them as good as we can. Let's make them as positive as we can. And that is not backing down to the anti-hunters. I will never back down to the anti-hunters. I don't care about the anti-hunters. But the vast majority of people in our state, the 80% in the middle who don't hunt or fish, but who follow social media and see my post and others like mine, let's make ourselves look as good as we can. Don't complain to me. Don't cry to me about the youth hunt. Not interested in hearing you complain about how the kid next door shot your buck that was on your hit list, your target list. You named him. You've been watching that buck all year. You let it go last year. You've been watching it all summer long. It's not your deer. It belongs to the state of Michigan. Until you put a tag on it, it's not your deer. I don't care if it lives on your property and wandered across the fence and the neighbor kid shot it. Is that really that bad that the neighbor kid shot your big buck? If that big buck will help that kid get hooked on hunting, or at least acknowledge the fact that hunting is a viable lifestyle, even if they don't continue to hunt for the rest of their lives, at least they were exposed to it as a kid. And when such issues come up at the ballot, as we know they are, this kid who thinks of himself as a hunter, who identifies as a hunter, will vote with us. I don't get it. I don't get the criticism of the youth hunt. I went into it in depth in the first segment of the first hour. I don't have time to do it now, but I feel like any negative complaint that you can come up with the youth hunt, I can probably counter it. Is it perfect? No. Do some people abuse it? Apparently. I don't know people who do. And I'll say this again. If the people you know, if the circles you run in, if the friends you have, if the adults are shooting bucks or shooting deer, probably bucks, shooting deer for the kids during the youth season, you need to find new friends. If you know people who are doing that and you don't turn them in and you consider consider them friends, you got to find new people to run with, because those people are dirtbags. They're violators. Coming up on the 24th, we are going to do a Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. Lance Valentine, Sir Lancelot is a special guest. Andrew Comptus of Outdoor Driven, a special guest. Andrew will be there because Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives and I are presenting him with a check, the first installment of proceeds from the Mike Avery Outdoors signature Rapid River knife. We're also giving away a truck trolley at that event. We are giving away an Avery signature knife at that event. Love to have you join us. We still have a few more seats open. Call for reservations 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. There is no cost for the event, but I'm not buying you dinner. You're going to have to buy your own dinner. But dinner at the Lumberjack is wonderful. 989-343-0892. One more time, 989-343-0892 for reservations on the 24th. We go live at 7 o'clock. Probably show up there around 6 or so you can get your meal and get served and be ready to rock by the time we go live. 989-343-0892. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, I'm happy my voice held out, by the way. Thank you, Lord. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner will join us. I have no idea what he has, but I can tell you this. It's probably going to be pretty good. That's coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. So we're here in the studio. I'm trying to edit a promo. Charlie, being the taskmaster that he is, said you have 5 seconds. I'm like, well, I need more than 5 seconds to finish the promo. And Charlie said, what are you doing right now? Are you doing a promo or are you doing a radio show? I'm like, well, okay, Charlie, that's why you are the man. So, okay, I put the promo aside. I'll finish it when we're done. But Charlie does have a point, because when you have wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Monner on hold, you don't want to let anything get in the way, because this guy knows more about cooking fish and wild game maybe than anybody in the state. And he's with us now. David, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
Really good, Mike. Thanks for the kind words.
Well, and you're welcome, but you've earned them.
Well, thank you.
I mean, how many years have you been cooking?
Probably 50. Maybe a little more than 50.
Of course, you started when you were 5.
16.
What do you have for us today, David?
Well, we got page 20. It's a stuffed trout with shrimp and scallops, and it's for a larger fish, not like maybe like a 2.5 to 3 pounder at tops. You know, one of the small steelhead or Lakers or Browns.
Okay. When Charlie first told me this, I was thinking a little creek brook trout, but you're talking the big
right,
water fish.
Right.
Okay. You now have my attention. Yeah, you have my attention now. Thank you.
Okay, so it's either going to be a steelhead, a Laker, a brown, a coho. Cohos are small a lot of times, so that would be good. You're going to bone it from the inside out, and we've explained that numerous times with a nice sharp knife. You're going to take the whole rib cage out, and you just want a packet of meat. So you're going to need a medium onion, sliced thin, 2 to 3 stalks of celery, diced fine, 3 to 4 cloves of garlic, diced fine. This is quite an extensive shopping list, so maybe follow along with the book. 2 beaten up eggs, half a cup of white wine, 6 ounces of scallops and 6 ounces of shrimp diced up, a couple of 3 pats of butter, a bunch of cilantro or parsley, either one you want to use, half a teaspoon of either marjoram or basil, one of the sweet spices, because you want to sweeten this up a little bit, dash of white pepper, juice of a lemon, olive oil, and if you want to garnish it up, you could take a lemon, orange, and a lime and slice it real thin and use that at the end, you know, when you make your presentation. So in a medium hot saute pan, you're going to cook the celery, onions, and garlic for 2 or 3 minutes. Not to brown. You just want to cook it, break the flavor loose, because it's going to go in the oven in the fish. So you're going to place, and then you're going to place the cubed up bread that we had, you know, because you're going to need about 6 to 8, maybe up to maybe 9 or 10 slices of whole grain bread cut into small cubes. Add the vegetables, the eggs, the pepper, half a cup of wine, lemon juice, diced shrimp and scallops. Mix it up real good. If it's too dry, add a little bit of milk to it, which chances are it will be a little dry. And then place the bonefish with the head and tail still on a large baking sheet. Place the dressing in the body of the fish. Pack it in pretty good. You can put it all the way up to the head and top with a couple pats of butter. Squeeze a lemon over the fish and add a little bit of white wine from the mixture that we started with. Make a loose tent of aluminum foil and bake it at 350 degrees for 1 hour or until the internal temperature gets up to 180, because it has eggs in it, and you want to make sure of that, you know. Take 2 spatulas and remove to a serving platter, and then, like I was saying, you know, with the lemon, orange, and lime, make thin slices and arrange that around the fish, you know, for eye appeal. Put a couple sprigs of cilantro or parsley, and it looks great, and it looks so impressive. It'd be a great way to impress your diners. And then you can make a butter manure sauce, which would be a half a stick of butter, juice of a lemon, and maybe 3-4 ounces of white wine. Cook it down fast until it's thick and creamy. and you can use that after you serve your pieces of fish to people on their dinner plates. You can spoon a little bit of sauce around or on top of it, and it makes a wonderful, wonderful presentation. And it's a great way to use a smaller lake fish.
No, it sounds wonderful. I remember this dish. You said it's a little more involved, so you recommend that people follow along on the cookbook. Well, if they've got a cookbook, they're lucky, right? Because the cookbook is no longer in print, correct?
Right. We had about 10,000 of them that we sold out of.
10,000?
Yeah, because I was buying them at 2,000 and at a 2,000 to 3,000 at a pop from the printer. I had to take my big trailer because it weighed about a ton.
They are heavy. I was thinking about this the other day. I was looking at the two cookbooks on my desk from you, and I thought, I wonder how many cookbooks Dave did. 10,000. But they're still out there, right? You can find them online if you search. You got to pay an exorbitant price for them, but they're out there.
Right. The guy where I take my oil to be changed in the car, he just got one from somewhere. I forget where he said he ordered it out of, but it came and it was in perfect shape.
Perfect.
He had me sign it for him.
Nice. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. Share your pictures with me. Send them to me in an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Put the deer's tongue back in their mouth. Put the bear's tongue back in their mouth. Call for reservations for our Wednesday Night Live, 989-343-0892. Talk to you next time.